Are you an editor who struggles with pricing or feels like you're just grinding through the work just to get to the next episode? Maybe you feel like all you get are terrible clients. The one common thread here, it all ties back to pricing. And most of the advice I see touted by the so-called podcast editor thought leaders, they all have the same issue that so many others just kind of blindly follow. So let's talk about pricing and the one thing that keeps everyone focused on the wrong thing. Hi, I'm Jesse, and I've been a full-time podcast editor for almost 6 years now. And over that time, I've seen how much things have changed. We've fully transitioned from podcast editing being a service offered by relatively few skilled editors to a fully commoditized service that doesn't require much skill these days. And before you complain that podcasters still need a skilled editor, we have to let go of this idea that everyone values quality over all else. The truth is that many podcasters, they actually prioritize price over quality. And with the abundance of editors to choose from, it's easier for them to shop based on price than on quality. And that's the crux of the issue here. It's difficult to show the value of quality, but it's really easy to show the value in lower prices. When it comes to pricing, we need to really look at the bigger picture here. I've talked about the commoditization of editing services, but how does that actually impact us? The first is that we have to look at our competition. We're no longer competing with just other editors. And by editors, I'm talking about people who have enough skill to provide a high quality edit and mix. We're also competing with VAs, side hustlers, and really with AI itself, and the very companies that many of us use on a daily basis, like Descript, Riverside, DaVinci, Premiere. And I know DaVinci and Premiere aren't brands or companies, but products. You know what I mean. Descript and Riverside, they're some of the worst offenders because part of their marketing strategy is to tell podcasters they don't need us because you can use their service for text-based editing. So we need to keep that in mind because they do have a point. These types of tools, they've taken away the bottom of the editing market. The people who they don't have much budget, but they have content they need to get out there. Once the bottom of the market has been taken over, that pushes all of those editors who've been serving that market to the next tier up. Again, increasing the competition. This is the thing that AI does. It starts from the bottom of an industry and it works its way up as it gets better, as buy-in gets better, as the technology improves. And as it does, it will cause those who are paying premiums for their editing to start looking at their options because no one wants to overpay for their services. And with platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, it's easier to comparison shop on price, but those platforms are also putting a lot of downward pressure on price. And it's probably only going to get worse over the next couple of years. So here's the thing that many editors are getting wrong with their pricing. You're selling time. It doesn't matter if you're charging hourly, which I hope we all agree is the worst way to charge a client. You get penalized for getting better at your job. Pricing based on length of episode, that's better. But the conversation, it's still around time. Only it's not your time, it's the length of the audio. So we're still talking about time to the client. This might work for you if you're running an agency-style business where it's more about the number of clients you have than the quality of the clients you have. Let me pause things here for just a second and ask that if you find this video helpful, that you give it a like and share it with other editors or in other groups where you think people would find value in it. I create videos like this to help as many editors out there as I can, so your help means a lot. So thank you, and now let's get back to it. We really need to get away from focusing on time and start talking about the thing that should matter, and that's the episode itself, the deliverable. If you want better clients, if you want higher paying clients, you have to stop talking to them about time. AI can save them time. Descript can save them time for $20 a month. Most of us aren't going to be able to compete with that. But that's how so many of the podcasters out there are looking at things. They're thinking, I can pay $20 a month and spend an hour each week editing my episode, or I can pay an editor $100, $200, however much per episode. It's hard to compete in that kind of a conversation. And that's why we need to shift the conversation away from time towards the episode itself. When we take price out of the conversation, we no longer have to answer questions like, why did this episode cost more? Or this episode should cost less because it's a lot shorter. I had one client who, when we were working out pricing, they wanted to pay less for solo episodes because they're shorter and require less editing. My response to that was, is the episode less valuable to you or the audience because it's shorter and requires less editing? I let that sink in for a couple of seconds and followed it up with, if you want to bring the cost down, we can discuss reducing the scope of work to get it to the price point you want. It effectively ended that negotiation tactic. The other thing I want to touch on before I wrap up is that now really is the time to think about the future. AI is disrupting things, and it's really not out of the realm of possibility that podcast editing could be taken over by, I don't know, social media managers or VAs, because they'll be able to do, 85 to 90% of the job for a fraction of the price. This means we really need to find new ways to provide real, tangible value to not only our existing clients, but also any prospects we meet with. People only agree to pay when the perceived value of what they receive exceeds the cost of what they're paying. Now, for a moment of shameless self-promotion, if you really want to dig into pricing to understand all of the different methods and how to actually determine how much you need to be charging and how to not undercharge just to land a client, I have a course for you. Pricing your podcast services, your value, your worth, your rates. It's a $79 course that includes 20 videos and over 100 minutes of content, which means I'm not just skimming the surface. You can find it at tanziasteracademy.com under courses, and I'll drop a link in the description. So what about you? What are your biggest pricing challenges? Have you found yourself raising or lowering your rates this year? What are you doing to help yourself stay ahead of the pack with all of the changes we're seeing in the industry? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.